Hello, friends, and welcome back to the Popcast. Whenever you're listening to this, whether it be live or a VOD, Twitch or YouTube, or Spotify, while you are remembering that Inkjet is actually in Splatoon 3, signing up for the 100th edition of SOS. It's going to be on this Wednesday. Looking at a map of the United States to determine where Minnesota actually is. Whatever it is that you're doing right now, appreciate you taking the time out of your day to listen to this. Unless I don't. Hey, Region Rumble went well. Congratulations to Texas for doing what we thought you would do, which is beat the dog crap out of everybody. That's Texas really isn't fair when you have Bagel Biscuit on the same roster and then you just throw in Madness and I forget who their fourth one, another like crazy strong player. They basically had a Div X plus team. And that's really not fair. So the next Region Rumble, if there ever is going to be a next Region Rumble, is going to take place after Texas secedes from the Union so that we don't have to deal with that anymore. If you played in it, I hope you enjoyed it. Don't get used to it. And yeah, there was a small top cut that was by design. We didn't want to... the point of it was to meet other people from your state and to play as many games as possible before moving on to a top cut where we knew Texas was going to win anyway. So hopefully you met some new people and you guys can go out and make a new little community within your state and you start doing some locals and stuff. Or not. I don't care. Doesn't bother me either way. News of tournaments may be of interest to the casual listener of the Popcast. Little Squid League is this upcoming Saturday. I don't know what the registration number is currently looking like, but they had 70 plus last time, so we'll see if they can get that many this time around. Hopefully even more, and they can deal with the nonsense we deal with crazy big low inks on a monthly basis. Megalodon Cup is on Sunday. No clue what the mode is this time around, but it's this upcoming Sunday if you're looking for something else to do. Mostly chill week. Ludi's come to an end. No proving grounds, no low ink. This is my off week. This is my week then to just kind of relax. I guess JPEG and I will start looking through those staff applications for low ink stuff. Obviously, SOS is celebrating their 100th tournament this Wednesday. I believe there is an art raffle prize for by Amber, the same person who did our pregnancy announcement commission. So make sure you sign up and watch that. Or not. It's not my tournament. I don't care what you do with that thing. Today, we're going to be chatting with Falco about the Ludi season coming to an end since he streamed almost all of the grand finals in one massive weekend. Nobody has a better view of these Ludi teams than Falco from top to bottom. So we're going to talk with Falco for the third time on the Popcast and the second time on webcam. The first person I ever talked to on webcam, and we're going to do it again because why not? We're always smarter after we talk with Falco. Unless we're not. So that's coming up. But first, a new season is on the horizon. Or if you live in Indiana, it already looks like we got spring. Anyways, it's like 60 degrees for the past couple of days. Kind of weird how that works out. Anyways, a new season within the game is coming out. Is it the falls? Is it the spring season is officially called that? I don't really know what its official title is. But regardless, it is here. I guess it's like in 2 hours, actually. I keep seeing things that say it's going to be like 8 o'clock today, Eastern time. So if you're watching this on YouTube, the new season might already be out by the time you're watching this. Why don't you watch me live? New maps, new gear. My Special Forces beret is coming back. That's exciting. But most importantly, though, we're getting new weapons. I'd admit, some of the weapons that are coming out are pretty cool. You got the new fire fin that's not actually a fire fin. It's like fire fin with something else. We're going to call it the fire fin. It seems like a cool kit for a charger to have. Might see more charger play into the in the meta as opposed to the E-liter play that you see every now and then. The sploosh kit seems like it's fun. I don't know what place Sploosh has in competitive Splatoon, but it looks like it's fun at least. And it also reminds you that Beacon is actually in this game. Is that just the second or third weapon that has Beacon now? Okay, are they going to use more of that? That was a pretty cool feature to have in Splatoon 2. Maybe the next ballpoint will have it. That would be nice. 96 Deco, I'm excited about this thing. If Kraken is even remotely as good as it was in Splatoon 1, I feel like this 96 Deco is going to be a cool weapon to use, and it might be something I would use. Rapid Deco, now that we know Inkjet's got a little bit of a buff against Crab specifically, even though I'm pretty sure Crab still counters Inkjet. Seems like Rapid Deco's got a little bit of extra use as well. So we got some fun kits coming out here. But none of that matters, because there's one new weapon we knew we were getting that drew most of the attention. They gave us the second Splash-O-Matic kit already. Now, the vanilla Splash-O-Matic kit is one of, if not the most broken kit of all time across all three games. And they decided to give us a second kit to work with. Okay, let's talk about the main weapon as a whole, though, because the main weapon itself has always been overpowered. It is lightweight, which means it's got a lot of high mobility. It's accurate, even when you're jumping, 100%. High killing power, high painting power. It checks literally every single box in the overpowered category, except for range, but even the range of it, as far as like a shooter is concerned, is still pretty decent. It's a really good main weapon, always has been. We used Splash in Splatoon 2 a lot because we had Haya. And we just said, hey, when you're not feeling like using Blaster because they're using Ink Armor, just use Splash. And I used to always get so annoyed at Haya because he would never use the Suction Bomb Rush. And I would be like, did you disable your right stick button? Why do you never use it? And it didn't really matter because it had Burst Bomb to go along with it. Chip damage, boom, everybody's dead. It was just a great weapon. And then they gave it Crab instead of Suction Bomb Rush. And it's been all downhill since then. But what's the Neo Splash going to be? It's just going to get some sort of throwaway kit. Maybe something like Zipcaster where you could have some fun with it. It'd be, it's not going to be anything that we're just going to add to the meta. It's not like you're going to be debating between which Splash kit you're going to use in competitive, right? Wednesday rolls around and all of us wake up to the news. Neo Splash got Suction Bomb and Ink Strike. It's, Suction Bomb and Ink Strike. Basically, it is now going to be Splatoon 3's version of Splatoon 2's K-Shot. Oh my goodness. So I'm watching Idle yesterday. It's pronounced Idle, by the way. I got the official pronunciation from Beta. It's not an acronym. I thought it was an acronym. It's not Idle. It is Idle. So I was watching Idle yesterday. A tournament that banned certain comps. There were certain rules, restrictions on what kind of weapons you could use, the amount of weapon duplicates you could use, abilities that, special charge up that you could use on certain specials. Restricted a lot of different things. Well received. People who played it and actually enjoyed it. It was very well viewed. Obviously, it was on Chara's stream. That helps out a lot. But you had a lot of casual people who've never really seen a tournament before watching their first tournament and getting to see not Crab every single game spammed 6 times, 7 times across a 5-minute match. It was fun to watch. It was a nice change of pace. There was a lot to enjoy just by watching Idle yesterday. And it couldn't have come at a better time, because when I saw the Neo Splash come out yesterday or on Wednesday, I had this thought cross my mind of like, we got to do something about this. Like we can't just let this happen. We know what the meta is going to be now. It's going to be Quad Splash. It really is going to be that. It is just a decision of, do I use the splash that counters crab, or do I provide the crab that needs to be countered by the ink strike crab splash? What? So many choices. Like, we know that's what the future is going to be. And I'm just watching Idle yesterday, where you could only have one splash at a time, which raises the question, not just by me, but by a ton of idiots on Twitter. What if Idle, or tournaments like Idle, wasn't considered to be a gimmick tournament, a tournament with a special rule set, a special feature? Instead, that was actually the norm. What if we had community rules across every single tournament, every mainstream tournament that we have in this community? What if we did that? Now, if you have watched any episodes of the Popcast, which I know you have, you know I have been heavily against creating rules in mainstream tournaments that restricted comps in any way. I have been so far against trying to open that Pandora's box of just setting harsh limits on things, restricting things, knowing that we can't go back. Knowing that if we just get rid of missiles in Splatoon 2, you can't just reverse and decide, you know what, no, this created a whole different meta that we couldn't really prepare for. Let's just back up and go back to the way things are. You can't do that. This game is still so young as well. What, September was 6 months ago? Almost? It's only been out for almost 7 months at this point. And we're getting new patches, what, twice a season? Well, it seems like we get one in the middle of each season as well, as we're getting one starting tomorrow. So the game's not even out yet. Like, they're not even done with the game. Why not just wait and let the game finish before we make any kind of decisions on what a community rule set would look like? Let me ask you something. So if you're thinking patches are eventually going to fix this game, so you're telling me the people who give us Neo Splash, the people who run tournaments where the commentators for those tournaments are literally holding back laughter as they're announcing a triple splash comp on their stream, and when Jordan Kent is going to the commentators and saying, what do these players need to do differently in the next game? And the commentators are literally just saying, they need to use more crab. You're telling me the same people designing all this stuff is also going to be the ones that finally nerf crab? After all the other patches that have come out before that have done nothing except maybe kick it in the shin, you think they're eventually going to make something that's going to fix this meta? Do you honestly believe that's going to happen? It could. It's happened in Splatoon 2. We started off Splatoon 2. You could use quad tri-slosher. And then the meta changed dramatically over the course of the lifespan of Splatoon 2 and came up to where the nonsense missile spam that we had at the very end of it. But we had things change then. So it's possible this could all change again. But do you really think they're going to step up and realize that they made a mistake giving one of the best main weapons in the game, Burst Bomb and Crab, and they're just going to fix it somehow? You really think ink, like draining the amount of ink that the weapon uses when it shoots, or slowing down Burst Bomb or any of that stuff is going to make people drop Splash? They've nerfed Machine like 3 patches in a row. Nobody's dropped Machine. You might see it less, but you still see it played pretty consistently. The problem isn't the weapon. The problem is the kit that it has. Do you guys honestly think Nintendo's going to fix all of that? Life as a whole, if we get a little bit deep here, is about controlling the controllables, right? There are a lot of things in your life that affect you that you cannot control. And the sooner you start to realize that it's not worth stressing out about some of those things that you can't control, the sooner you'll start enjoying this miserable planet that we all live on, that we know as life. We cannot control what Nintendo does with their patches. We can't control what kits they put on weapons. We can't control anything that Nintendo does with this game. We can control our tournaments, though. We don't need a patch to come out to fix anything. We could literally fix everything ourselves today. We could fix all of it. We don't need Nintendo to tell us what crab is supposed to be. We could fix all of that right now if we wanted to. There's nothing that's stopping us from doing that. We don't take orders from Nintendo with any of the tournaments that we run. In fact, we just laugh at the tournaments they run because they're horrible compared to the grassroots community's tournaments. So why haven't we adopted community rule sets up to this point? Well, the problem is it doesn't really matter what you think if we should have community rule sets or not. Because I've been, for a longest time, been thinking we don't need them, we shouldn't do them. And now I'm starting to think maybe we should consider it. In the grand scheme of things, it doesn't matter. Because the only problem is we are never going to reach a point where us as a community are going to be able to enforce community-wide rule set for all of our tournaments. Now, before any of you clip something I say at the beginning of this segment or all the way through the end of this segment, keep in mind, listen to everything I say before we're done. You could very easily clip something I say out of context and go to Twitter and make some sort of statement. Popgun's saying this, and that might also reflect on IPL like somebody did yesterday. Listen to everything I'm saying here before you jump to conclusions about anything that I'm saying as a whole. But the reason we are never going to see community-wide rule sets is for a couple of factors. Actually, it's just for one factor right here. First off, in order to make weapon bans, you have to determine what the actual rule set is going to be. What specifically are you going to ban? And that right there is why we are never going to do it. Because it is 100% impossible for us as a community to come up with a list of rules, even if it's just simple things, to determine what we should and shouldn't ban from tournaments. It's absolutely impossible for us to do that. What would you even ban? Would you just ban all crabs? Are you allowed to use one crab? Are you just no duplicate weapons? Can I use two different splashes as long as one's vanilla and one's Neo? What if something else gets patched out and then all of a sudden splashes are bad, but something else is really good? Are you going to start changing the rules so that that is fixed? What if the new maps come out tomorrow and everything's already fixed, but we've already adopted new rules? And what if, as we've seen in gimmick tournaments in Splatoon 2, what if you start creating a new rule set and we all follow that new rule set, but what we realize is that creates a whole completely different meta that shuts down everything that's even worse than all the crap stuff. Remember the launch day tournament? The tournament that was only weapons and gear abilities that was available in Splatoon 2. That was at the beginning, at the launch of Splatoon 2. It was supposed to be this thing that was going to break away from the meta. You can't use main power-up. You can't use K-Pro. You can't use Kenta, the K-Gal. Those things didn't exist at launch. You know what happened? Everybody just used missile weapons. nonstop. It was just all you could eat missile buffet. That was why it was called launch day, because they were literally just launching missiles at each other. So what if you make a rule set that just makes everything worse? And who gets to decide what this rule set is? Is it Twitter? Is it is it like a community-wide thing that gets to decide this? Let me give you guys, because I see this so often on Twitter and it drives me crazy. You guys need to take a stats class if you're in high school. They offer that in your guys' high schools, right? I don't think my high school offered it one, but I know times have changed. Or if you're in college, take a stats class in that. Most like majors requires you to take that. If you guys think going to Twitter and doing a poll to get any kind of serious information out of Twitter, I'm sorry, you have no idea the sample size of moronity that you are drawing into your Twitter polls to make the decisions is beyond your scope of understanding. Like if you wanted to use a Twitter poll like Nine did today, which was if you're in a game 5 of your X series rank and you wanted like, what is your IGN of the teammates that you want? Like silly stuff like that. That's what Twitter's for. But if you want to just have a community vote on important decisions on Twitter, you are a moron. I'm sorry. There's no other way to describe it. I have 3 Twitter accounts. My IRL one, my Splatoon one, and the Destiny Troops one. If I just want to screw over your data, I'm just going to vote 3 times for the stupidest option. Well, a lot of people really want this option right here. Are you sure it's not just a bunch of trolls contributing to things? And also, if we're doing community-wide voting on anything, including map lists for Ludi, just let Low Ink control everything. Because that's essentially what you're doing. If you got Starburst, who's been involved in this community for a long time and understands this community for a long time at a deeper level than a lot of other people do, guess what? The 4 players on Starburst just got drowned out by the Low Ink team that rolls 8 players deep, and they think running double charger is the optimal way to play the game. Just let Low Ink control everything if you want everybody to vote. And that's how you end up with Ludi map lists like we had last time, and people going, excuse me, why am I playing Mahi Clams in the grand finals of my Ludi div? So it can't be a community-wide thing. But you still got a lot of voices that you would want to consider for these things. You're talking about all the TOs of all the orgs we have, the community leaders, people that aren't TOs but still have strong presence in the communities. And you want top-level players to be involved in this stuff as well. Maybe some high-level players who have been around in the scene a little bit longer. That's still a lot of voices. And getting all those people to agree on anything. Hell, we can't even get people to agree on a map list. What makes you think we can agree on specific rule sets that are going to be fair across the board and are going to stand the test of time? It's not going to happen. Take Idle, for example, the tournament that happened yesterday. And by the way, I just want to give this little disclaimer. The purpose of Idle was not to create this whole narrative that everybody's talking about, including myself today, about community rule sets. The purpose of Idle was just to create a fun tournament that forces you not to use the meta. It wasn't designed with the intent of this is what the new standard community rule set should be. It's not that deep. So, and anybody leaving feedback of like, well, you should have changed this rule or this weapon should be considered in this weapon class. You guys realize the next Idle is going to be like a year from now or whatever, maybe longer. Like you guys are giving feedback for a tournament that's going to be completely different in a completely different game with all these patches by the time you get around to it. So Idle isn't, I'm just using Idle as an example, not as the standard. But the rule set Idle had benefits certain teams over others. Last Resort took Kings to a game 5. It looked really fantastic throughout the entire run that they had in that tournament. Last Resort was hindered 0% by the rule set. They had Splatana, Stamper, Havoc's been using sloshers since before Summit, and Storm Hero on the one Splash-O-Matic that they're allowed to have. Correct me if I'm wrong, Last Resort's been running that comp anyways regardless of what the rule set is. So they get a natural buff just by practicing things that already worked anyways for the rule set. And that might have played a factor in why they played so well against Kings, the team that ultimately finished in second place to NFT win. Excuse me. On the flip side, though, that same exact rule set that they had nerfed Kingmaker of all teams. Because you can't have more than 2 weapons in the same class, Kingmaker's triple brush comp is now illegal. You got a team that goes out of their way to be so anti-meta that you got a rule set that says, no, you guys are too anti-meta. You got to reel it back in a little bit. Your gimmicky thing is a violation of the rules. So that's an example of how you got to really think about what these rules are going to be if you're going to start enforcing them a community-wide thing, because sometimes you're going to have some teams get a huge boost of it, and some teams who have no reason to be kicked are going to be kicked, knocked down, and then kicked again. But it's going to force a lot of other teams to change. That is something you got to realize. You're going to force, by doing community rule sets, you are going to force teams to flat out disband because they've been built based off of all the weapons that are currently in the game. Now, if something gets nerfed, then you might be able to adjust a few things are here. But could you imagine Smoothie, a team that is built for the meta, but is made up of players that naturally played all those weapons anyways? It just so happens that they're in a game where all the weapons they were maining in Splatoon 2 just so happens to work out really well in Splatoon 3. But now you change the rule set, that team has to change what they do dramatically. The run and gun system that seemed so radical when Hanron did it like 3 or 4 years ago is now going to be outlawed under any kind of community rules that would be put in place. So you're going to force teams to look dramatically different or just flat out disband. It's a monkey paw curling situation. And there will be there's just way too many voices for something like that to look place. Now, let's say, for some crazy reason, we're able to come up with community-wide rules that work for everybody. We did it. We cracked the code, and like 51% of the community likes it. The other 49% of the community hates it. Well, the majority wins, so we're going to go with those rule set. Now, here's the next obstacle you got to go through. You have to get everybody on board. Every single tournament organization has to be on board with community-wide rule set and all on the same exact rule set. Every single one of them. You can't just have one org that breaks off and does their own thing, and you can't have multiple different rules. Dapple Productions has this rule set that's different from IPL's rule set, that's different from the rule set you would play at a LAN. You can't have that. It all has to be under the same umbrella. It's too confusing if everybody's different. We all know you guys don't read rules. The people who signed up for Region Rumble with their own teams, case in point, did you not even read the name of the tournament you signed up for? It boggles the mind. So to have different rule set between tournaments and orgs and all this other stuff, you can't do that. So everybody has to sign off on it. And I mean everybody. Little Squidly, Dapple Productions, IPL, LAN tournaments, MIT, Off the Dial, Double Trouble, whatever that cat-made thing is, Splat a Little, Ludi, and of course, you can't leave this out either, Japan. That's right. We can't have completely different community rule sets from Japan, and now we're letting Japan just do whatever they want. They don't adopt any kind of rule set. It can't be different between them two, because what's the point? If the point for Starburst, and the only thing Starburst has left to accomplish in this community is to start beating teams from Japan, but every tournament that we're going to allow Starburst to play in on the West is going to have a rule set, and then they leave and go play teams from Japan, and all of a sudden they're facing triple splash or quad splash for all we know. How is that fair? Are we providing enough resources for West to be anywhere near competitive in Japan if Japan doesn't get involved in these rule sets as well? Nintendo, that's not real tournaments. That's just a commercial. They're never going to fall in line with any ideas that we have anyways. So you need everybody on the same page to make it work. It's going to be too confusing, inconsistent. Rules are going to be broken left and right. And as Roundy was saying to me in, I guess a couple of days ago, when it comes to any kind of gimmick rule set that we would come up with, if the rule is too confusing to explain to a casual, it's not going to work. And that makes a lot of sense. So everybody has to be on the same page. Good luck getting that going together. So those two factors alone disqualify community rules from happening. And again, you could come up with a completely different rule set only for a patch to come out of nowhere and fix the problem anyways. But you can't go back. So as much as we hate the meta that we're in right now, which, by the way, we're going to hate every single meta that we're in forever. That's what the meta is. We only have one course of action here. We can't adopt new community rules. We have to wait. We have to wait. The game's not even done. When the game comes all the way out, or mostly out, and we know what we're going to be playing, and the next patches that are coming out are just like minor adjustments here and there. Hell, half of the patches are just just them fixing glitches in the game. like Hammer wasn't even functional until about the third patch in the game. We're not even done finishing out this thing, which leads me to this. Since I said I was heavily against adopting community rules in the past, I will admit this now. I regret not being more vocal during that last year of Splatoon 2. When they were done with Splatoon 2, I regret not being more vocal about us doing community rules then. It would have been a real easy fix for us to just say, as a community, you can only have one missile weapon in your comp at any time. Only one armor at any time. No more quad missile, no more double armor. You can't do that anymore. It would have been a real easy thing to adopt, and I feel like pretty much everybody would have been on board with that, and there's no patches that are going to come out later that would override anything. We should have done that then, and I feel like that was a mistake now. But we can't do that yet. It's way too early for us to do things right now. As tempting as it may be to open Pandora's box, just remember, when you open it back up, everything that was in that box is out, and you can't put it back in, and you can never close it again. Give it a little bit more time. But when the game is done, let's revisit this conversation again and make sure we don't make the same mistake that we did at the end of Splatoon 2. Last Resort comp was a little bit different, and Ray and Raymaker should have been banned. Well, Ray's kind of a good example because wasn't double Ray comps banned in Japan? I've always heard that, and I've always had people say, yeah, that's happened, but I've never seen like an official source, so that's just, I could just be continuing to spread misinformation like everybody does on Twitter. So that's something to look into. I'm sure Falco is waiting. Before we get to that, though, we got to speed through this. It was a busy week, so let's recap it. It's time for the weekly recap. Already mentioned the Region Rumble, won by Texas. California taking second place. California love. It'll a little bit as well, won by NFT wins. Kings finishing in second place. I mean, it was basically Starburst. It was 3 Starburst players and Keo in for Brand. But I mean, I guess most of, when you look at like Starburst's roster and the old FT Win roster, I guess it is pretty much the same thing at this point. So be it. SAC, the 4th qualifier, was won by Mercy. Not No Mercy this time. They were showing some mercy, even though they still won the whole tournament. Watermelon finished in second place. Healthy Diet Food Groups was in third. Silver bracket was won by Opium, and bronze was won by Sanguine Seas, who is proving that we did the right thing by banning them before the last blowing, because they've been popping off ever since. So that was the fourth qualifier and final qualifier for the season. So we have the top 8 teams: Synergy, Watermelon, Mercy, Armageddon, Healthy Diet Food Groups, Rapid, I Don't Know, Silly Kitties, I believe is the last team rounding that one out. I'm sure IPL is going to be doing a preview for that at some point. They do their own little podcast for SAC. So we'll be keeping an eye on that if you want to figure out who the preview is and who you think is going to win that one. Honestly, I don't know. I would assume Mercy would be the favorite going into that. But Silly Kitties is always that team you don't want to bet against, or else they'll cry on Twitter about it for months on end. Let's dive into all the looty sets that happened this past weekend. Oh my gosh. Let's just go down from Div 1 down to 11. Div 1, Unhinged Unity got a 5-2 win over ASC Tenshi. Michelin Heroes finished in third place. That set didn't go to a Game 9. Div 2, Vivid got a 5-3 win over Bad. Moe Fan Club finished in third place. Div 3, Downey got a 5-3 win over Interrogation. The Hood finished in third place. Div 4, the Silly Kitties, or the Silly Kittles, if you want to call them that, somehow dropped the game and only won by 5-1 to Ocean 7. The Sassy Spikers finished in third place. Who let Silly Kitties into Div 4? Come on. Div 5, easily the most exciting match of all of the grand final sets. Div 5 went to Crimson Wave in a 5-4 win over Myopsitus. Neon Palm Tree finishing in third place over Aquatic Vanguard. Div 6, Epsilon got a 5-1 win over Illusions. Surprisingly, though, Night Sharks take third place. I see you overneath June. Div 7, Project Zeta got a 5-1 win over the Black Ink Raiders. Galaxy Squids finishing in third place in that div. Div 8, Smash Core Grease got a 5-2 win over 6-star Wanted Level. The Splat-A-Lot Drippy Drippers got third place in that one. Div 9, Victorious Divine got a 5-3 win over the Bottom Feeders. Yes, you would think that was a very close match by everybody hyping it up, but watched it back, it was just the team playing 4v3 and their player came back. Team Orca got third. Div 10, KO Patrol 5-1, Royal Succulent. Arctic Blitz getting third. Div 11, Crimson Star 5-3, Elegant Emerald. DC Suicide Squids getting third in that div. All of them played last week. And all of them on the Splatoon tourney channel. I don't know, maybe not Div 1, I'm not sure. But that's your weekly recap. Sponsored by the Big Swig Roller. Clearly the most underutilized weapon in the game. It turns out if you run Triple Splash, you can use anything, including the Big Swig Roller, which did get a little bit of a buff against objects for some reason. Okay, cool. The Big Swig Roller in the Big Swig Roller community. The official sponsor of today's episode of the Weekly Recap. Big Swig community was so excited about seeing Bagel busted up. You know, if so that was in Region Rumble. If Texas got set back, if that one went to a Game 5, I was wondering if Bagel was going to double down and die on the sword of the Big Swig or go back to something else. You can never really tell with those things. Just like you can never really tell with Discord. I wonder if Discord is actually working. What happens if I hit this transition button? That is not at all. Oh, I know what the problem is. It's on the wrong screen. It's on the wrong screen. There is old Falco. So welcome in to the Popcast, since we were
Hey,
talking about all the Ludi
Popgun, you're
sets.
actually muted on Discord.
How am I? Oh, great. It's not like you wanted to hear me anyways, I'm sure.
I could hear you through the main stream, which is a little
So you're
delayed.
just a
Hello.
little bit behind what I was saying. Perfect.
Yeah.
Welcome into the Popcast for a third time. The host slash founder of the Splatoon Tourney channel and somebody who is gracious enough to hop off the exercise bike to talk to us today. Falco, Flyer, how is morale in Ohio today?
Morale's pretty good, but probably similar to you, we were kind of under a tornado watch and warning. So thankfully, nothing really too dramatic here. We did get some nice size hail and scared my dog, so we just hung out in the basement for a bit, but we're doing pretty good. How's
Okay,
it
so
going for
we
you?
we were under the tornado watch, but we didn't have any actual storms or anything pass through. We did get a lot of rain. I mean, with the weather, what it is for this time of
Yeah.
year, you would assume something's not right here. We're due for some sort of craziness, but welcome to living in the Midwest. I hate to start this off on some controversial news here, but I do have a little bit of a something I did want to share with you. So my wife and I, as of this past weekend, just became members of
Don't
Sam's
say Sam's
Club.
Club. No! I knew you were gonna say it. When you said
So
members, man, okay, that's fine.
so the we realized we're gonna have to buy a whole lot of diapers going forward,
Yeah.
and apparently Costco has Huggies, which is not the brand we're going with for some reason, and Sam Club has Pampers, so we got to go with that. The logic behind that was Laura said, quote, better poop coverage, end quote. So Costco just doesn't really cut it for us in that department, unfortunately. So
That's not one of their products I'm super familiar with, so I'll have to trust her on that one.
you know what? Maybe you might never be familiar with that, and that's totally understandable. Um, hey, how are you feeling after this weekend?
Honestly, I am feeling pretty good. Obviously, it was a very long weekend. We were able to cast 10 of the 12 finals. So we did 10 streams, which is about, or less than 10 streams, but about 10 hours worth of matches Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, spanning across all four of those days. Kind of at weird times too. A majority of them were in the evenings in NA, but some were in the afternoons on Saturday and Sunday. So never really felt like I had a real break. It was finally done until Sunday night when I hit end stream on OBS around like 9:30 Eastern time. So I'm feeling pretty good. It was a lot of fun. It was very tiring, but I would do that again. I absolutely would.
Okay, so you tweeted out in the middle of the season how you were maybe pushing yourself too hard or maybe doing too much. And I mean, that's obviously something everybody comes across in this community, or not just this community, but any kind of TOing or broadcasting that you're doing in the esport. Um, how do you approach this weekend knowing that maybe you are like getting burned out, but you realize, oh, the biggest weekend is right here. Like I could stream 10 matches. Like how do you approach that while still keeping your sanity?
Right. That's a really good question because, on one hand, like you just mentioned, on one hand, I was feeling very burnt out, kind of in the later half of the middle part of the Ludi season. But you do go to this grand finals weekend where all the matches, like everybody wants them to be streamed, including myself. I think I'll say like during the middle of the season, I kept pushing the bar on what could be done with these streams. So, some of these things that I do that I don't think a lot of other orgs do are have a lot more dynamic overlays and whatnot, with like instant replays and all that stuff. And I wanted to even push it further with having like commentators on webcam. I have to set that up and get the scene situated. Oh, it would be really cool if we could have two matches go at one time. So I literally got everything figured out on my laptop to run another game literally at the same time, with a second Switch, a second copy of Splatoon 3, that I just purchased digitally using the Nintendo, it was like the what is it called? The two pack for $100 digital coin currency thing. I don't know
I
what it's called.
I wouldn't know. I don't have any digital games. I'm old
Okay.
school, so
Yeah, they have a thing going around now where it's like you can buy, or if you pay $100 now, you can guarantee to get two AAA titles and basically get $20 off, total. So I did that. I have a second capture card. Like I had it all figured out and ready to go. And I like that Saturday night before the Div 1 quarterfinals and semifinals, that was when I was really feeling burnt out. I was just like, this is why am I doing all this right now? Like I wanted to do it, but it was not worth me being stressed out, and I didn't really want to project that onto other people too. So that was kind of, I will say, like the peak of feeling just really stressed, really burnt, was during the Div 1 quarterfinals and semifinals, and it worked out decently enough. Luckily, Kbot was able to, rather than me having a second stream, he was able to stream it to an unlisted YouTube video on his end. And then he just gave me the OBS browser source for that stream, and I showed him how to update a scoreboard that I have that then will appear on our overlays on the stream. But that also was stressful because then I'm working with him to coordinate with the Div 1 teams of, okay, no, I'm actually not streaming your game. Kbot is, work with him, and just kind of this whole mess. So I'll say that was like the peak craziness. But going from that to knowing, okay, there are just 10 more sets that I have to do. And thankfully, they were all at different times. None of the grand finals scheduled at the same time. I don't know how that happened. And like, because I wouldn't really tell the teams when other teams scheduled their sets. It was just a matter of us being lucky, and I think having a good enough or good amount of EU teams who are going to prioritize my afternoons, and the NA teams are going to go towards evenings. So that worked out. But yeah, a huge change, kind of going from that middle of the season to the end. But it all worked out. It all came together.
So, could you explain the process of like what your week looks like as you're setting these things up? You played in this Ludi season, and I've obviously played in too many myself. Just playing is a total nightmare coordinating with somebody. How do you coordinate with all these other teams and get them to commit to being on the stream? Like
Yeah,
what does your week look like, and how do you? It just baffles my mind that you're able to pull this off.
that's a good question, because anybody who's in the Splatoon tourney Discord server, like, and has the commentator's role, you would see that I was posting at all hours of the day of just kind of like what the schedule is. But basically Sunday night, or I would say on Monday evenings, I would talk with my wife and see what our weekend looked like ahead. I would prioritize her and my family first before obviously streaming any of these sets, as anybody should too. Um, and then I figured out, okay, what can I do? And because I would love to do, like Friday, Saturday, Sunday evenings. That was always my time that I wanted to try and get this through. And so I would typically tell Nyok, who is one of the Ludi staff members, which, by the way, I have to give him a huge thank you. I gave him credit in my tweet that I sent out yesterday, but he has helped me a ton with kind of this coordination with getting the. I think there was like an application that when you scheduled your matches that you had to, like, do you want your match to be streamed, yes or no? And he was the one who would tell me when players said yes. So he gave me a list of when streams are going to happen. But I would have my open slots that I knew I wanted to cast sets. I would pay attention to when kind of these games came in. And sometimes players from teams who wanted to be casted would just DM me and ask if I had a slot available. And I would try to, tell them yes or no as soon as I could. I also had to get commentators too, which thankfully I had zero problem doing, zero issues. There were always enough people who were willing to commentate a lot of these Ludi sets, varying from all skill levels of commentary and how comfortable they were with commentary or how new they were too. So kind of that was like the Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, get the matches rolling in, do the commentator pings, and then Thursday, Friday, I would have Saf and Toma. Those are my two gracious helpers who help me with everything. They would be the ones who reach out to these teams to get the get their logos, get their rosters, get their Twitter handles, and send them to me and put them in a dashboard on a Google sheet that would be used for the stream. So again, a huge shout out to them. But the work really never stopped. I would say if I had any break, it was on Monday, like morning or afternoon, because by Monday evening, I was trying to like get my schedule situated.
My goodness, I mean, that's kind of similar to what my week is like, but I'm also doing, I'm doing a wide variety of things. You're focusing on just one thing to pull it off at the level that you're at. I got to give you credit as well because I feel like if you don't exist, Ludi season isn't done. The Ludi season is 100% done across every single div, all 12 of them. How did you manage to get every single finals except for X and 1 on your channel? Like how did you pull that off?
So again, I don't want to take credit for this. This was definitely Nyok, who again, Ludi's staff member, who I think really pushed for these teams, especially the high levels of teams, because historically they have not been the teams who end at an appropriate time. um
Mm-hmm.
he would be very adamant about like we are having finals like on this weekend. We can be flexible about the day and time, but it will happen on this weekend. So he definitely gets the credit for that. But I think too, when people know that there is a stream schedule and a lot of these teams want to be casted, like, and I encourage them to be casted. There are definitely teams who really, that's a little intimidating and that's understandable. But I think they're more inclined to finish on time if they know that they're going to kind of get the viewership that they would have gotten on stream.
You've talked about a lot of the things that you added or that you were able to pull off over the course of the season, streaming two matches at once, having two different channels going at the same time, the replay system, um, a little bit of an analyst desk going on in between things, like live looking, like the things you were doing, we're not seeing anywhere else, unless it's being run by like an actual professional organization. Um, if there was, is there anything else you wanted to do on your end, production wise or whatever, that you couldn't pull off because of lack of staff or funding or resources or just anything like that?
Yeah, I feel like what I really wanted this to kind of turn into, and especially on Sundays when a lot of these teams were playing their Ludi sets, if I had if I had the time and really the knowledge of how to show people how to cast some of these games, I would have given them access on the other Splatoon tourney channels. I don't know, nobody probably knows this, but there is Splatoon Tourney 1. Well, there's Splatoon Tourney, which is where all the games were. There's Splatoon Tourney 1, and I also claimed 1 through or 2 through 12. Just created those Twitter or Twitch accounts just in case I could pull something off. So, like a long-term goal, and I don't know how feasible it is, but would be to get other people comfortable kind of running the stream like of overlays that I created and stuff. And it definitely requires OBS knowledge and know how to stream these games. But what we could then do is, on like a Sunday night when, maybe 5 games are going on at one time, it's literally like the NFL red zone of like Ludi. You just kind of hop between games and see which ones are close, focus on those. You can update scores from other games that are going around. But as you mentioned, it's the resources. It's all about trying to figure out how to pull it off too. It's like we can have all the people that we have, and if they're able to do it, but it's a matter of really showing everybody, because I don't even know how I would go about introducing that. You know what I mean? It'd be hard to kind of educate on what the process would be.
Do you know the passwords for all 12 of those channels? Or all
I have
13
them
of those
saved
channels?
somewhere. Yeah, I don't
It,
know them, but
it's all different passwords, right? It's not all the same one.
well, yeah, sure, yeah, let's go with that.
That's hey, maybe someday. I mean, that would be really cool. I mean,
Mhm.
obviously, we as a community are not at that point yet, but it would be cool if there was something like you're saying, because the conversations you and I have had, you're trying to make this like what you would see with actual sports. it comes across in all the production stuff that you do, whereas everybody else is looking at it like, well, how do we do it as an esport as opposed to like, what am I seeing on an ESPN broadcast kind of thing. So Ludi's done, which by the way, you've seen more Ludi action than anybody. You've literally watched all the finals except for Div X and Div 1. Is there any, as you're watching this, is your brain hasn't melted at this point, is there any kind of like things you're picking up on where it's like, oh, this is obviously a Div 8 type of play, or like, oh, well, this is clearly why this team is in this div over that other team that we saw in the last match? Like, can you clearly tell differences between the divs?
Um, I wouldn't say it's super obvious, but there are differences that are easy to spot. I would say number one, and this kind of goes to what you were talking about earlier in the podcast, but higher level, they're going to stick to the meta and they are not going to stray away from it. You are not going to see anything that is outside of the 6 weapons that are very common in every game. The lower you go, I will say the more fun it is to commentate, more fun it is to view. How often do you get to watch somebody play a Luna Blaster? How often do you get to watch somebody play like I don't know, like I've seen Squiffer a few times too, and it's just like these are fun weapons that it doesn't matter. Like, yeah, they're not the best players, but like they're good, but it's not it's you're not commentating the same game, and it makes it fun and refreshing too. So the lower divs definitely had more fun weapons, and kind of like the plays you mentioned, sometimes it is obvious, okay, this is a lower div game. What I do have to say though is I'm very thankful that a lot of the commentators we have and people watching, they kind of know that too. And nobody's like, oh, why is this team running like, a ballpoint and a Hydra? Like, just let them play, like let them have fun. So I'm really glad nobody kind of had that mentality. And it's refreshing. It's something we don't get to see very often, and I know the commentators have a lot of fun with it, and the viewers do as well.
Oh, low level, never change. I mean, okay, so you can get away with not doing the meta in low level because your opponent's not doing it either. But
Mhm.
like if somebody just runs triple splash in low ink, they're not going to automatically win, but
No.
they're gonna do pretty good,
Yeah.
just because of the nonsense they go up against. Ludi's done. The season's over. What's next? You got this channel, you got all this momentum. I know did you apply for partner with this one?
I did, because we reached the threshold and it actually got turned down in 24 hours.
Wow, that's quick.
It was really, which honestly, I'm thankful that that happened and just be like,
Yeah.
oh, okay. Like, I don't have to like linger about this or anything. But this was at a point too where, it's like I kind of like hit the button right when we got it. And, I was just like, I don't know what to expect. And, they don't really give, I'll say, the most adequate reasons why it gets denied. And I'm not complaining or anything. I'm not pounding my fist on the table
Right.
or anything, because obviously I'm not streaming anything right now on the channel, so I could use that against myself as to why it's not there. But yeah, we did reach the threshold pretty quickly. It happened, I believe, a month after we got affiliate. So
And it's just weird that here's the guidelines. Okay, I met the guidelines. Well, like, no, well, no, you didn't meet the secret guidelines, and we're not going to tell you what the secret ones are. Okay, well then why? What's the point of that?
yeah.
But I guess the main point of that I wanted to get to here is what is next for this channel? Does it go dormant until the next Ludi season? If that's the case, it's going to be another year, we know, before we see it.
No, that's a good question. So what I loved about streaming the Ludi sets are that, number one, and probably the most important, is that I'm not a TO for it. I have nothing to do with any of the rules, and anything that happens, for their match, I'm not responsible for. So that's the best part about what I loved. Number two is that we knew which teams that we were going to be casting ahead of time. Uh, we knew that the commentators could do research on the rosters, look at their results. They don't have to go into this and say, "Oh, this is pick up team number one versus this team we've never heard of," and you don't really have anything to talk about. You have, I'll say, enough time to kind of do your research. And So I want to stick with those types of matches that get streamed on Splatoon Tourney, having more of that league style match where we can properly promote ahead of time. Like, hey, this team's going to be playing tonight. They're going to be facing this team. Come hang out and come watch it. Kind of like again like a real sporting event. You know when two basketball teams are playing against each other. Um, so going into that, we do know that the CCA League was just announced yesterday with all of the divs and stuff, and kind of how the teams are organized there. And so I'm going to be working with DRF and Mizuno to be casting some of those CCA matches. Probably not to the extent that I did for Ludi though. I will be taking a little bit of a break first, but I do want to keep up that type of content, that type of match that we can broadcast because I think those are very engaging. So I'm excited for it too. I really enjoy working with DRF and Mizuno, and I'm excited that I can cast the CCA matches.
That would be fantastic for the CCA. No knock against them, but just your channel's already grown past theirs. It gives more eyeballs to the teams that they have. Now, you streaming Ludi's thing doesn't benefit Ludi at all. You streaming the college thing doesn't directly benefit the CCA at all, but for those teams, it's a huge benefit for them to be able to be on something like that, and it's something they can share. And just the fact that there are VODs of all of the finals that are floating around somewhere is, you'd seem like you would think would be a no-brainer, but it is, it's something we're not really used to having either. But speaking of just like VODs in general into streaming things, we yesterday Idle was streamed on Chara's YouTube channel. Now Chara has 100K subscribers versus all the rest of us who have like 3. So the numbers are kind of dwarfed right there. Have you considered switching off of Twitch to YouTube or doing some sort of hybrid stream of both, even though there's like restrictions with that? I know. Like, have you looked into doing things
Yeah.
on YouTube?
Yeah, so that's a good question. So most of you know, but if you're a Twitch affiliate, you cannot broadcast to Twitch and YouTube at the same time. It's against their guidelines, and that's why people don't do it. And that's actually why Squid School Gem is not an affiliate on Twitch. That way he can dual broadcast to both Twitch and YouTube. And for him that works out really well because he has a good following on YouTube with all the videos that he puts out. Um, so before I got affiliate, I actually did do a few dual broadcast streams on Twitch and YouTube, and I I didn't really do any sort of promotion for it when I started the Splatoon Tourney YouTube channel, which I think now has like 80 subscribers because some of the VODs have gone in there. I had like 0 or 1 subscriber, and I didn't do anything as far as promotion for those streams, and I just put it out there. And I think for the 3 or 4 streams that I did dual broadcast, there was only one stream where I saw at least any YouTube comments on. And again, that could definitely be because I didn't promote it, and I'm sure that's the reason. But I don't know. I think there is just a different audience for it too. I know for myself, I never watch streams on YouTube ever. Um, I never do it. I feel like a lot of people who are on Twitch don't really do it unless they're maybe like Vicvion or somebody who we all know in the Splatoon community.
Well,
She streams there.
is that because we as the competitive community are just so ingrained in the sense that, okay, if it's a tournament, it's on Twitch. Like, we don't even think to look at YouTube. Like when
Yeah.
20XX did their Failboat stream, no, I don't think any of the competitive players knew about it until after it was already done. But yeah, is it worth going to YouTube because there probably is that untapped audience that's exclusive to YouTube that doesn't even know this stuff is on Twitch or doesn't even have a Twitch account to begin with? Like, do you think there is a large market there that just doesn't know it exists?
The market is probably there. The problem is that a majority of these orgs that we have, IPL, Dapples, MIT, all of them are, I believe, affiliated on Twitch. And not that affiliation for these orgs really matters because I don't these like your org is you're not banking on the ad revenue that you are pulling in. You're not,
Right. Right.
that's not why you are an affiliate. You do it because well, first of all, if you're not an affiliate, you can't do predictions. on stream either. So I know that's something I really enjoy about a lot of these tournaments. So there's just kind of these like weird things that you have to think about. Okay, if I do this on YouTube, what can't I do on Twitch? And kind of battle that out internally. But if you do decide to go to YouTube, obviously there's no harm. I just think that's one extra platform that you then have to also advertise. But I believe the potential is there. And I mean, with Idol going on yesterday, obviously on Chara's stream, you have Chara with 100,000 subscribers. People are going to watch it. If IPL, with all due respect, if IPL creates a tournament and just broadcasts it there, it's not going to see the viewership they see on Twitch, which you probably already know that, like initially. But it could be there, and to be honest, I really don't know. But for me, I don't think I will be making the switch to dual broadcast on YouTube unless I'm convinced otherwise by people who do it before me.
I'm just always curious about it. And I know the Chara streams and the Failboat streams are not those aren't good sample sizes. They have 100K plus subscribe that dwarfs the numbers a little bit. But I still just feel like there is untapped potential there. It's just how do we make that connection is something we're all I like the fact that we're having these conversations as we're thinking about it, because like a year ago YouTube wasn't even a thought for anybody, except for the people that were just making content for it. Have we, now that you talked about how you enjoy streaming these tournaments without having to TO anything during it, are you hinting at we've seen the last of Friday Night Frenzy?
Um, I don't know. I really don't know, and I get asked that a lot. If you don't know what Friday Night Frenzy is, it is a tournament series that I put on. It was honestly very similar to Ludi, but I capped it at 8 teams, and they played on Friday nights, and all the matches were streamed and commentated. So it was, to be honest, when I created FNF in 2021, I had not even heard of Ludi. I'm not even joking. And so I didn't really know like, oh, okay, this is similar, but their matches aren't being streamed. Like there's, the official Ludi Twitch channel, and I think in the past they've done like grands of a few divs, but obviously not to the extent of what I had done. But yeah, I don't know. I think too there's ups and downs of running Friday Night Frenzy in Splatoon 3. I would say a lot of pros are that your teams wouldn't have to be restricted to playing on Fridays because we have replay codes. Uh, you could adopt something similar to what Ludi has, which is a default time, and if you want to play before that, go for it. But if not, you have to play at your default time. A drawback is I feel like there's a lot more that's happening on Friday nights and already, and when I kind of had that time, there really wasn't much going on. So I don't, for me right now, I don't think the effort is really going to be worth it just based on what my priorities are.
How excited for you on a scale of 1 to 10 for Low Tide City?
Oh my God, a 10. Like, absolutely.
Is
There's no
it
question.
is it
No debate.
so we didn't go to Shine.
Uh-huh.
I guess you've been at every single land I've been to after the pandemic. It
Yes.
I think Low Tide City's the best one to go to as far as like a community atmosphere is concerned. I don't want to sit here and like rank them all because they all have their
Yeah.
strengths and
Oh yeah.
weaknesses. But if there was like one in particular one I was looking forward to, I think it's Low Tide City now. Do you feel the same? Is that
I do
fair?
too. Yeah, and it really is because of the venue. I think that Kalahari is just set up in a much better environment for people to just kind of gather. We obviously are talking about like the fire pit and hanging out. Just because for Riptide, the Kalahari and Sandusky is just set up a little awkwardly. You don't have that like centralized meeting place, and people um are just kind of doing their own things. And obviously Riptide this past year with Splatoon 3 coming out, people were just hiding in their hotel rooms like grinding the game on their own. So which is not what I did. I literally only played Splatoon 3 during the tournament. I didn't really like I had Junior and Blaster and that was it. I don't
Or
think I
bombarding underprepared Best Buy employees for
Oh my
games they
God,
don't even
yeah.
have.
Yeah, after I called ahead and they said it wouldn't be an issue. Yeah.
Oh man. Well, I'll see you there. Maybe we'll cross paths before then.
Yeah.
Um, I want it on the record stated publicly. I did offer to come to your house during Low Ink weekend,
I
but
know.
I don't think you were able to get a set lined up for that day
Literally,
either. So
yeah, it was semi. I think quarterfinals for the lower divs and semis for the higher divs, and literally zero teams scheduled their sets on Saturday night. I would have told you if they did. Zero of them did. Because you would have been right here in the Mizuno spot with me, or maybe I'd shove you back there and run another set or
could
something. I don't
I
know.
could I TO Lowink at that station behind you? Like, could
Oh
I
yeah,
pull it off?
absolutely. Yeah. There's a mic. Yeah, I mean that's like my work setup, but you just bring your own laptop instead of mine.
See, that would have been
So
so cool because you would have just heard vulgar pop gun just like cursing out people without. I'm not like typing out things, but just like the things I say that I don't actually type, like this jackass, get out of this lobby, things like that. That would have been a fine treat for you. Maybe you would have said, you know what, we're done with Friday Night Frenzy. To hell with TOing. You might be getting there. Hey, go enjoy some time not doing Splatoon stuff. Enjoy the new season and have a weekend doing something else. I
yeah.
guess.
Thank you, Popgun. I believe didn't it start 10 minutes ago actually?
I don't know, eight
So I don't
o'clock
know either.
Eastern time. Here's what I'm concerned. I think I'm gonna lose my X rank. So I'm top 300 in Clan Blitz, so I'm gonna get the badge for that. But I think you have to get to S plus 10, which I didn't do at all. So I think I'm gonna be top 500, but still lose my X rank. I don't know how that's gonna work. So that's what I'm
Yeah.
concerned about.
Yeah, it's pretty funky, but I think you're correct.
Whatever,
Whatever. I got to
whatever.
S plus 12, so I'm good. I'm good.
Yeah. Oh well, lucky you. I got the
Yeah.
like S plus 2 and said the hell with this. I'm just gonna.
I've enjoyed Anarchy series more than X because I don't know.
It's
Not
less
that like there's
pressure.
really there is like there's not a huge difference when playing, I don't think, but you definitely see more interesting comps in I'll say Anarchy series and people just don't take it as seriously maybe.
Uh, thank you for coming on yet again, and I'm sure we'll find ways to get you back on in the future. And
Yeah.
we'll see you down the road.
Yeah, thank you for having me. Pleasure as always.
And that was Falco Flyer, the head organizer of Splatoon Tourney. Uh, Man, I can't believe that Ludi's actually done. That is so crazy. And it's whether you want to believe it or not, Falco played a huge part in that because otherwise I promise you half those sets aren't even going to be played. If there's no like, hey, let's get this done, let's get it on stream. I still think Div 2 last season has yet to been played. The grand finals of Div 2 last season just ended being a forfeit because I don't know, I guess they what's the point? It's just Ludi, get it over with. So man, Ludi is done before March, and there's so many VODs of it. That is just awesome. And that is it. There's no proving grounds, no low ink this week, no additional episode of the podcast. I'm done. I get to take the rest of the week off as well. We're finished here. Let's wrap this up. If you'd like to be a part of the podcast in any way, feel free to reach out my socials below. Twitter at Mr_Popgun, Twitch at Popgun25, YouTube at 25 Popgun, Discord at Popgun, hashtag 5882. We can go to Devi because we haven't been to Devi in a while. Make sure you get vaccinated. I guess you can go to IHOP. I've been to IHOP recently. They got new French toast. They only give you one slice at a time. I don't know how I feel about that, but don't do anything dumb.